Treatment of Women in India by CJ,
Christina,
and Sarah. Through India's history of being a free country, many women, including Indira Gandhi from 1966 to 1977 and more recently Sonia Gandhi, have had high political power. Yet, men all over India see women as weak and useless without a man helping them up. Every year, police reports show the number of rapes, kidnappings, and other crimes against women are increasing. The question is why, and where did it start?
Since the beginning of Hinduism, women have been thought of as unequal and are not given the same rights as men. Hinduism, being the major religion of India, has a very large impact on the people.
Can be seen
For
throughout
example,
the
it's
villages,
thought that if you have
towns,
bad
and
karma in a
cities
past
of India.
life, in your next life you will be an animal or a woman.
A
This
temple can
belief
be a
gives men
simple
the right to
structure
falsely
by the
believe
side of the
that they are
road,
superior to women
or
and can
an
basically treat them
entire
like
complex.
animals.
The poor treatment of women can also be traced back to when the British took control of India around the 17th century. Although many times the blame is put on the British for India's issues, in reality, the reason Indian women are treated so horribly has more to do with the Hindu beliefs. Even before the British invaded, Hindus had performed a ritual called the sati ritual. In this ritual, widows are expected to throw themselves into a burning fire so they can die and join their husbands in the afterlife. Though this ritual was never forced upon women, they would be looked upon as disloyal wives if they did not do it. Much of the reason that this ritual was performed was because the Hindu men thought that women were useless without their husbands there to hold them up. In other cases, women were thrown into a fire simply to punish a woman for an inadequate dowry or to eliminate her so a man can remarry.
Which
The elimination
divided
of
our
women doesn't only
society
happen in
into
adulthood.
different
Many times if a
sects
man
on the
finds out that
basis
his wife
of
is having a baby
occupational
girl,
expertise.
then he will decide
Like
on
the
the behalf of
Brahmins
the
were
mother to have
assigned
the
to
baby
read the
aborted.
scriptures,
This caused
the
feud,
Kshatriyas
gender
were
ratios, and
assigned
therefore
to
sex
rule,
trafficking.
the
If that is
Vaishyas were
not bad
engaged
enough,
in
unlike
trade
brothels
and
and
commerce,
prostitution in
and
other
the
countries,
Shudras
India
did
is
it
known for beating and even
impure,
killing prostitutes that
and
misbehave or
the
don't take
sex
on enough
workers.
fines.
Doesn't matter.
Women today in India are faced with many more issues that in the long run can create even more problems for India as a whole. The biggest problem that this includes is forced prostitution. Young women are forced into prostitution at as young as age 9, and according to the National Human Rights Commission, that age is going down. Half the Sky is a documentary based on the book by Cheryl Wu Dunn and Nicholas D. Kristof and focuses on forced prostitution in India.
Many families in India suffer from poverty, which causes them to
The
take
children
young
that you
girls
see at our
out
back
of school in order to take more clients.
they
and get more
really
money
are
for
at the
their
bottom
life.
of the caste
Because these
structure.
families are taking
Children
their kids out of
who
school,
come from
this causes
the
many young girls to
untouchable
be
community,
uneducated. This has a big impact on India
at
because not
that
as many
level,
people will be
jobs
able to do the
that
jobs that need
won't
people
be
with
done
proper education,
by upper
which in the
caste
long run
Hindus.
causes more poverty.
Another issue that forced prostitution brings upon all of India is HIV, AIDS, and other STDs. According to the documentary Half the Sky, many brothels are not supplied with condoms. In one case, there was a brothel right next to the DMSC office whose job is to hand out free condoms, but yet when asked, the people at the brothel said that they had to buy the condoms with the little money that they had. This has not only caused the spread of STDs, but also causes the number of teenage pregnancies and unexpected children to increase. These children are therefore brought up in an environment that is not safe for them, and many times their parents do not have enough time or money to properly raise them.
Many may believe that women in India are treated poorly by just men, but in fact they are also forced into this by their families, often including their own mothers. Sometimes these women enter into prostitution purely because they are undereducated and are in desperate need of money. Other times, young girls are born into a subcaste made up of long lines of prostitutes. As America Ferrera said in the documentary Half the Sky, at the end of the day, Monisha's fate is determined by her parents. There's nothing to stop her from going down that path. They often enter into prostitution either because it's their fate due to the fact that their mothers are also prostitutes or because their mothers.
Though prostitution is a huge problem in India, it is not the only problem involving the horrible treatment of women. An Asia police record shows that kidnapping and abductions of women were up to 19%, women being killed in disputes over dowry payments by 2.7%, torture by 5.4%, molestation by 5.8%, and trafficking by an alarming 122% over the previous year.
You would think that with all of the powerful women in Indian politics that they wouldn't really be having the problems with women that they're having now, but that's not the reality. In many cases, the problem has just gotten worse over the years with no improvement. Movements like the End It movement have given people around the world an idea of what's going on in places like India with sex trafficking and other types of slavery. Although this raises awareness, it doesn't really change the law in India.
The organization, known as New Light, is working to take young girls out of dangerous situations that they are living in and making sure they don't go into prostitution like the rest of their family did. They say their main goal is to get girls educated so they don't fall back into the state they were before they found New Light. By taking these girls out of their homes, they are no longer faced with the threat of going back into prostitution. Monisha is a young girl living in India who was lucky enough to be able to join New Light and get an education. After a few months, the teachers found that Monisha had great potential and she had already started to think about what she wanted to do for a living. Unfortunately, her parents needed the money so badly that they had to take her back to the village where she came from and sacrifice her education.
As shown above, this solution of giving girls an education doesn't always work because the children's destiny is oftentimes held in the hands of their parents. Mothers aren't doing this out of spite or hatred for their kids. These women know how terrible it is to be in the life they are living in, and they want their daughters to live in a better life than theirs, but they don't want to give them up. They love them so much, and that's what makes it so hard for them to watch them walk away to a better life and maybe never come back to them again.
India is a very long way away from solving any of their issues with the treatment of women. Their issues are too deep-rooted to fix them in a matter of years. Before any real solution begins to form in India, the men are going to need to change their attitudes about women and their power to do things in the world.
It took Americans hundreds of years just to give women the right to vote, so it's impossible to tell how long it will take for India to make the realization that women are just as smart and powerful as men are.